Hello, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Jay Renard, and we are here today getting ready for a market over in Boca Chica, Texas. And I'm cleaning up the edges on some of these projects here. I'm going to be using multiple tools, including this application, the HPAID application tool from Giardini, and this one here from Dream Factory. There we go. Gonna declutter some of this, and then we'll get started. Should have did that before, but hey, I just wanted to jump right into it. All right. The kicker right here, what's gonna help a lot, is the fan. The airflow across really helps with the drying process. All right, and I've already got the phone going, so I don't need to have everything out. There we go. Won't need this or this. I will need a better cable because this thing keeps popping out. There we go. So we've got three primary colors we're going to be using, and that's the Edge Flex Dark Brown, the Edge Flex Navy Blue, and the Dark Bordeaux. Those are the three primary ones that's going to get used today. So I'm going to finish. So I already got the edges done on this one and on this side of the strap. So now we're going to do this one. And that one's going to take a bit longer because it needs to be propped up so that the paint doesn't run down the side. It's going to take care of some of these little fringes. All right. The dark Bordeaux. So we're going to keep them all here close, keep everything else more or less off screen. And the glorious 400 grit should be solid here. So this one, to color match, it's going to be the dark Bordeaux. As you can see, already gave it a good shake. Right. Gonna lift this up a bit. There we go. That way, when it's gonna set down, it'll dry flat. Now for the application. Come on. There we go. this in frame. And I've mentioned it before, but for whatever reason, this dark Bordeaux is a lot thinner than the other edge paints from EcoFlow. So while everything else requires maybe no more than 4 coats, this one, even with really solid edge prep, it's going to take about 5 or 6. And while that is drying, that's not going to work. Fuck. Much better. I needed something heavier so it wouldn't move as much. I also very foolishly let my arm touch right here. Normally I'd be upset, but it's the first layer. There's gonna be some prep, and then it'll be fine right after. Anything else that needs this color? Because I don't want to put it away if I don't have to. mostly dry. We'll start on these bad boys. On this instance, I should say continue. I wish that I could show this in slow motion, but I can feel it and I can see it happening where there's less friction, so the applicator is sliding and it's dragging the paint as opposed to rolling it on. You can see it there. So it rolled on this section, but it slid right there. I guess I just have to go slower, adjust the pressure, make sure that it stays rolling. I gotta be honest, in all of Leathercraft, edge painting is the thing that I think I dislike the most because it's essentially unavoidable. It's the equivalent of having to diet while you're bodybuilding. You know you have to. You can't avoid it, but it is not going to be pleasant. Did that roll on? All right. Okay. No. I came down too far. is what we get when we rush things. Almost ruined it. Forgot the prep. Just like painting a wall or anything like that, you got to make sure that the surface is a little rough so that what you're putting onto it will adhere better. I should have put on some music. A bit much. There we go. A little bit of prep. Bring these high spots down, but also, again, roughing up the area. Just using what was already on the applicator first. If I'm real lucky, then this should be the last coat. It won't need much. The surface area is real small. And the edges were all right. Ah, there we go. Come on. There we go. That was a lot better. that's still not even tacky, that's definitely wet. So while we're waiting on that, get the edges ready for this one here. This one's hippo hide with cowhide on the inside. Now I slicked the edges, but the last market that I went to, a lot of people really liked it, but nobody bit on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna church it up a little bit. The edges are roughened up a little bit from what they were before. Well, you already started, so I'm gonna go here. This one's probably gonna require at least four coats. I'm not gonna stream all of that. That's literally watching paint dry. If I have a smaller project though, like this one here, I'm gonna go over a couple of different techniques for the edge painting, because there are other ways other than using the this rolling applicator. I do prefer this one. Um, I will say though that objectively the best one that I have is this one from Dream Factory. The rolling mechanism is engineered. It's got a lot going on and it rolls significantly smoother. But it is heavier and there's a lot more to the point of it. There's a lot more going on. So gonna have to be a little bit more cautious with applying things to it, or rather putting the paint onto it, and how it gets used. So far as rolling action, the Dream Factory one is absolutely the best one. And if I had something that was just difficult or just very large, I easily would just break out the Dream Factory one. But these ones here are neither large nor difficult, so not worried too much about it. Shit. Worried about that though. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. Sorry for the swearing, I just wasn't mentally prepared for this to fall down. Especially not while I was holding something that couldn't be dropped. Well, that's too much for what has to get done. There we go. All right, now we just gotta let that dry. almost went terribly. Almost. Alright, that one's looking pretty good so far. And that was only a couple of coats, so I'm going to now focus on the inside piece here. That's actually too much. Whew, got lucky there. That was already tacky. Just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so let that dry. Whoa. Come on. There we go. That one's gonna require some more. I was hoping I could get away with not having to, but no such luck. Sorry, I keep forgetting about the frame. And again, the key with this one, especially when there's no real high points, is to just make the surface a little rough so that the paint has something to stick to. Alright, that section was still a little bit wet. See if I can just force it out and then alright, I'll let that dry some more, dry 100%. No, this one's good. A little bit of something off right there in the corner, but that is a easy fix. Alright, so now all the stuff that's red. Oh wait. Oh yeah, duh. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Maybe this one could be blue. Yeah. We'll make that one blue. And if you're curious why I'm not doing the front end here for this wallet, I'm just gonna slick this end. This is what I call the business end. This was gonna get open and closed the most. It's gonna be the most movement and friction going on over there. I'll let that be as it is. I did the similar thing up here. I'm just gonna finish the edges a bit and maybe just one or two coats for uniformity, but I'm not gonna go deeper with the coats. It won't look like this edge here. I'm not gonna do that with the tops of these two. And now rotate. Let that airflow go past on this side. Actually, could so that it doesn't pull up too much to one side or the other. What do I got that's heavy? Eh, good enough for government work. Yep, just a little bit more over there when it's dry and it should be solid. This here. Da-da-da-da. Here we go. Giving myself all this extra work because I was impatient. There we go. I knew it was going to be multiple coats because of how thin it is, but now it's going to be a bunch regardless. There we go. Yeah, I overdid it trying to pull the excess off, and I ruined that side of the edge. That's why I applied some more. Hmm. Well, frustrating, but not to be not not surprising. There we go. Frustrating, but not surprising. It was a much larger clip. Here we go. Hopefully this doesn't pull too much. Thank goodness for the wait. Alright. This one is done. You can see how the edge looks compared to before. Now we just gotta let it harden all the way through, and that one's good to go. Set this over, well, put it on top, but right here. This one should be next up on the thing to be done. It doesn't feel tacky, so. Alright. And now that frees me up to use these, which I love. Bam. Alright, so that's it for the dark Bordeaux. Come on. Actually, I take that back. That's not it for the dark Bordeaux. This one still requires a couple of more coats. I think all the edges should be done on this one. Yep. So just commence to roughen them up again. Just remember, the purpose of this step is just to provide a bit more friction. I'm sorry, not friction, just a slightly rougher surface. I spoke too soon. Still fixable, but now I know I just have to wait a bit longer than what I initially thought. Because back to what I was saying before though, if you apply edge paint onto a smooth surface, it's going to run down that surface, regardless of the orientation. But when the surface is a little rough, the fluid adheres to the surface a little bit better, so it keeps the paint on, so it stays on better during the application. Whoa. And it's less likely to peel while it's in use because it's adhered a lot better. Come on, roll. Roll, you bastard. There we go. I think for the last round of application for this piece, I'm going to use the Dream Factory one. I might need to, especially if it's going to be as smooth as I think it will be. you're wondering what sort of magic trick it is that I'm doing to hold the applicator, then in one hand, holding the piece in the other hand, and then magically using my other hand again, I'm just holding the applicator oddly in my teeth because I can't put it down or in a pocket, not without cleaning it off, which would slow up the process of the application. I don't recommend it to other people. Because at the end of the day, this is still a chemical and you're putting a chemical close to your mouth. I don't want people to feel comfortable with something like that because I said so. I mean, if that's something that you're cool with, all right, fine. Just don't blame it on me. That's my disclaimer. I said not to do it, even though I'm still doing it. But that's only because I'm gonna assume there's risk for me, not for anybody else. Hashtag selfish. And this looks like it is done for the most part. Yeah, this one's good to go. Just has to cure now. Which is great because now I can start prepping the other colors that I'm going to be doing. Whoa, get back in there. Yeah, I keep accidentally pulling the applicator out of the barrel. That's what that pop sound is. Alright, now, I showed it a little bit, but this here is how easily this applicator rolls. It's not bad at all, but you know, if I flick it, it's just gonna stay. This one rolls far more easily, and it keeps rolling when I flick it. So the application will be a lot smoother. However, the grooves don't go all the way to the tip like how this one does. So when it comes to smaller, tighter areas, I can't roll it, but because this does come to a very narrow tip, I can apply it in very tight corners like in this, when the roller just wouldn't be as effective. I wouldn't be rolling it, I would just be lightly applying the paint with the tip, and it still works really, really well. All right. So next up, gonna be these pieces here. This is actually turning out really, really well, so I don't think I'll have to do another coat on here. So this piece might be done. Actually, I feel pretty confident that it is, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put it away. Let's hope that that's not overconfidence or bravado. I'm gonna move this piece a bit over here so it can still get some airflow, but is ultimately still out of the way. And let's go brown for the next round here. did not know I had this many crocodile slash gator minimalist wallets, but since I do, and they're here we go. Let's flip it to prevent the pooling. Yep, it was already starting to pull down a little towards this side, so let's hope that when it fully dries, it's shifts down a bit. That's bam. Get this high spot down. All right, so here we go with this one with the dark brown, aka marron oscuro. Oh, that was almost too far down. There we go. That's better. I'm going to have to be a little more cautious because this section is longer, so there's going to be more paint on it. That turns so much better. All right. That did not turn out terribly, although I see now I'm going to have to be mindful of the inside bevel as well. Alright, I'm just going to start over with my application and make sure that I only go down towards where the ridges are, because before it was way down here and it's not useful to apply it down here, it's too smooth. So, second go, much better. Yeah, very nice. Let that coat into those ridges a bit. Rotate back. All right. All right, I see what the necessary technique is gonna have to be for this one. I'm gonna have to do the bevels first and then the center after. I clearly used the wrong size beveler. I used a 2 when I should use a 1. It's a bit much there. So, yep. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go outside first and then inside last in order to make sure that it applies well. So what I mean by that is like this on the bevel, and then on the bevel on the inside, then the center, as opposed to how I had it before. Damn it, too far. Maybe not. Still a lot though. Yeah, before I used a smaller bevel when I finished the edges on the project when I was done, so I could just roll on the center and there would be a little bit of downward flow of the edge paint, but it still covered it no problem. This one, the bevel was a lot steeper. Lesson learned, don't do that again. It's gonna be tough on this side. All right. Oh yeah, I like how that one turned out. There we go. Set that off to the side to cure. Uh, yep. All right. So I actually started this, and I don't know why I didn't finish. I'm gonna blame it on the ADHD, but I'm about to finish now. So here we go. And what I did here, because the where I stopped was up here on both sides. So for this next round, I just rolled over, a little bit of overlap, and I'm continuing on over, continuing on down. And this one, because it was not just crocodile, but a particularly soft crocodile, I didn't even bother with the beveling because it was just chewing up all the other pieces that I had tried to do before. So these edges are flat with no bevel. So it makes the application a little easier, quite honestly. But also doesn't have that rounded look to it on the ends. It's a bit much. Let me take some of that off. Okay. Still came too far down. Gotta work on that. Much better. Slide. And for those of y'all who are tuning in, who are unfortunately literally watching paint dry, only thing I can say is I'm sorry. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to leathercraft, especially the finishing off of things, it's not glamorous. It's quite boring. You're just gonna have to utilize this skill that you've learned in this very useful but ultimately mundane task. It's not interesting, it's not sexy, it's not really cool. The result is nice, but again, you're literally watching paint dry for a bit. Get that out of the way since I'm not using it. Knew I had a third one. Yeah, just a wider base makes it a little heavier so it won't wobble or rotate with the airflow as much. Those are going to get done last. They just require that much extra effort. So, truthfully, while we're at it, might as well just add these now. It's not even touching. There we go. Better. Shit. Thank goodness. Oh, fuck. Spoke too soon, touched the edge. Now I fucked myself. Well, thankfully it's only the first layer. You can only screw that up so much. Sorry about that. I don't think that was on frame. Probably too close to me. That's gonna have to get dealt with. So mad I didn't notice that until just now. It could have been worse, I guess, but still, should have spotted it. All right. That's annoying. Better. If you're wondering what that whole extra tap was, it's because there was a lot of edge paint on, and I could still use it, but it was gonna drip off, so I just let it come off in a place where it would benefit me. And if you've ever painted a large space or a whole room with a roller, you know that you don't just roll in one direction. You go back and forth a bit. That's what I'm doing with the applicators. All right. If I am very, very lucky, this second coat should be sufficient. Whoa. Come on. It's a big if. Not the most likely thing, but still possible. And what I was doing here was pulling a lot of this excess edge paint that was there when I first started into these little grooves here, and then applying them further back where I know the applicator was running out. It can be maybe not negated by just getting some on the applicator and then letting it roll down, but you also run the risk of potentially not getting enough and then not knowing that's the case until after you're done. So you know how they say it's better to have more than you need than not enough. Same thing, same concept. Don't fall. Now this one has high spots, so I'm gonna go with a lower grit to get some of those high spots down. I'll probably go over it with the 400 again, just to make sure that the surface is smoother, so that when it adheres, it'll still have the smoother face. I'm hoping that I can do two and have it be just fine. That rattling sound was my dog's collar. I'll get him on the stream at some point in time, I just don't know when. Hopefully if he's a hit on the stream, then I'll make him a part of everything. I mean, why wouldn't he be? People love dogs. He's a good boy. One of the goodest, in my opinion. Although he can be stubborn, which is odd. Oh yeah, that's way too much paint. But hey, I'll make it work. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be nice. Time check. 12:30. I don't gotta leave for a couple more hours. That's good. Come on, sand in there. There you go. Yeah, I remember this one. It said this has to get fixed. And then this little thing here. Much better. Shit. This is why we can't have nice things. Specifically because of me. that's what I was gonna talk about earlier, the different application techniques. Some people don't use the roller. Some people will use a a pin or something that comes to a narrow point, and they'll get the edge paint on the pen, on the device, whatever it might be, and then they'll just slightly drag across the piece, allowing for the edge paint to effectively, I guess, just deposit itself onto the piece that you're working on. It's really, really weird to explain, but I'll do it for a section of this last one here. Actually, that's too much. So that you can see it in action. It definitely works. But that's not the first technique that someone should learn how to apply edge paint. Definitely shouldn't be the first technique. And that one has high spots again, so I'm gonna have to do some better sanding and edge prep on that one. Alright, but like I was saying, let's prep this edge. No, 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 no. Oh, okay, thank God. There we go. Alright, so like I was saying, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some edge paint on this in here. I'm going to lightly apply it like so. Not the biggest fan of it, but it does work. It is useful. So the key to this technique is you're not dragging it like this, like you're drawing. You're just lightly touching the surface and then letting the edge paint come off onto it. It's weird. However, the result is pretty dope. It definitely works. And you might think, oh, it's gonna go on too thick. It actually doesn't, as long as you're just light-handed with it. But me personally, I'm just gonna go with this. Now I'll definitely do it on the top here, which I'm gonna do last. I think I mentioned why already, but with just that whole technique of just the light dragging across, multiple coats, absolutely not. Not remotely. Not even a little bit. happened here? I think I just cut that off. Alright. There's too much on there, so let me just pull some of that off. How did that get there? Alright, that turned out pretty well. What's up, Doug? I was just talking about you. Yeah. I told everybody that little clanking sound was your chain. Are you just gonna walk out? Alright, that's cool. I guess since there was no scratches, he just took off. I can't even be mad about it, honestly. Gonna keep these heavier ones. Actually, the top of this one is kind of crazy, so I'm just gonna leave it as it is. With that cure. Shoots. Oh, that's right. It was mostly dry. Well, could do with another weight, I guess. Actually, this one's done too. Yep. This one turned out more than fine. Edges are solid. Little calfskin piece in the middle there. This one, actually, yeah, this one's good too. Yeah, I forgot I did the tops of those already. And let me get this next go around on this one because I've been neglecting it this whole time. No real high spots. So, oh, that's right. This one's the one I got to do with the whole the bevels first. Yeah. always clean your applicators. There's a sweet spot for the cleaning where the stuff is tacky slash gummy. Because if it's wet, hitting it with a wire brush isn't going to do anything. And when it's dry, you need to scrape it out with a machinist pick. But when it's gummy slash tacky, boom, wire brush, easy day, Bob's your uncle. I mean that in the American sense, not the British sense. Yeah. Boop. Ooh, I thought I scratched up the outside there. Come on, stop dragging. Bind the 12. All right. Well, I think that's more than enough of watching paint dry for the stream anyway. I got a few more to do, but it's been 93 minutes. I've made a lot of progress, but in 2 hours I have to go because it takes a while to get to the venue and I still have to set up everything. All right, so thank y'all so much for joining me. I'm Jay Renard, and I'm out. Oh, damn, I totally forgot. All the way at the end of the damn video. Watch of the day, Citizen Eco Drive. Got the Disney slash Marvel collab with the Iron Man. This is the one of the lesser known ones. The other one has the Starcanium arc reactor in the center. This one is the suit. So yeah. And come here. Yeah, he just walked in at the perfect time. Come here. Yeah, perfect timing. All right. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. I'm Jay Renard, and I'm out. Peace. Get this straightened up. All right.